Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm Jeffrey David Hartford, your host and the coach. That's the conduit of optimism, altruism, consciousness, and health. And today I have for you a guest that's going to bring to us a whole slew of information in this quantum space that I've been introducing you all to for a while now. This is Dr. Erica Mattia, that is a chiropractor and quantum health practitioner. And we chatted a little bit before we hit record, and I understand the chiropractic side of that is in retirement now and really given the focus to the quantum health space, which I definitely support, I love, and I can't wait to dig in a bit here. So, Dr. Erica, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, truly my pleasure. So as we were talking before I hit record, the thing that really got me to a point, I've been following your posts on Instagram for a while, and I love your content. I love how it's a way of showing you doing the things that you encourage people to do. And, you know, you're outside and you're taking in the sun's rays and you have a nice little caption on the photo of what it is you're doing, what the benefits are. It's a really simple way of getting across some challenging information for some people. But the thing that really jumped out at me was one of your recent posts regarding using this quantum space to handle things like menopause. And I've been in the fitness space for over 20 years now. I started out as a personal trainer. I now do my massage clinic. And as you can imagine, being a man in the space, handling situations that arise, I mean, we can study it all we want, but I've had that come up many times with my clients that, well, you're a guy, you're not going to understand it. And I get that on a certain level. You know, there's certain things that I won't know in terms of a feeling. I won't know how it feels, but we can certainly study it and understand it intellectually. But to be able to have you come on and share that type of stuff, I think is going to be really, really valuable. But before we get there, I do want to hear some backstory. Let us know, who is Dr. Erica? What got you into chiropractic to begin with? And then what was your transition out of that?
That's interesting. Thank you.
Of course.
And I will start from the second half just to say that I don't have a direct experience of menopause myself, of course, either, but perimenopause is a fun one to even to talk about, so we can talk
Sure.
about it. But yeah, to become a chiropractor, I started in health. I took an undergrad in biology, and I was looking for a way to help people heal naturally. And I learned about chiropractic and I thought, that's a way. So I applied and I got into the school and I did the schooling, but I always felt like I was kind of not really where I was meant to be. It just had that feeling of like, yeah, I can stay in school, I can finish this. But then once I got into practice, it really resonated to that feeling of like, this isn't enough. This isn't everything I want to do and everything I want to be. And I felt like my patients, I loved spending time with them and I did a lot of acupuncture. But I didn't feel like I was giving them enough. Like the puzzle has 1,000 pieces and I was giving, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So I eventually decided to take a break where I took some time off to kind of think about it. And I didn't go back. I eventually decided to sign myself as retired because it felt like there's got to be another way to do this, another way to help people, right? So it was just for me too, like, because I always have to say, I fully appreciate what chiropractic is and all of the facets of it. It just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So in taking some time off, I went through fertility problems myself. We ended up having 2 kids after quite some time and going through fertility treatments and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I think my redox got ruined. So in sort of like the quantum way to talk about it, I feel like I really hurt my health. And then after having 2 children, they're 2 years apart, but by the second one, I was really not well. Like I had that horrible feeling of postpartum anxiety and couldn't lose weight and couldn't sleep. And I didn't feel well. So in my search to feel better, I tried to do what the traditional like do stuff is, go start going to the gym, eat. Well, I changed my diet a bunch through the years, but eat better, and
Yeah.
those kind of things. And nothing really changed me much. So it ended up in some sort of rabbit hole of like how I ended up in finding the Quantum Biology Collective, but I kept searching and finding different things. And I ended up learning about Quantum Biology Collective and the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology. And right away, I was like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
So I took their course and started implementing what I was learning. And it really didn't take very long. Like I would say a summer for sure, because I live in Canada where we have very nice summers and very cold winters, right? And the nice summer, I spent all the time outside. I was learning this material. And by the end of the summer, I was like, I'm a lot better. And so
Mm,
I have decided that this needs to be something that everyone needs to know about, just like what you're doing is getting the word out there. I didn't know unless I started searching and searching and searching. So I'm hoping it will come up faster for people. And I will work with individuals online so that they can learn what they need to learn for their health and then go to their chiropractor, go to their massage therapist, go to acupuncture, go to all the different services that can help.
yeah.
But having some one place to understand what your body needs to improve your redox, essentially.
That's wonderful. I appreciate you sharing all that with us. And it'll be interesting to see. My wheels spin when I talk to people. I just this creative side, I guess. Be interesting to see if down the road you decide to kind of blend it all back together and get into some sort of practice where you do still do some of the chiropractic and some of the acupuncture with this quantum side of it. You know, I do love the idea though, as you said, of, you know, give these people the information they need to go back and work with the professionals they're already working with. And that's really powerful as well. You know, the more I go down this quantum rabbit hole, if you will, myself, I find myself energetically bringing it into the clinic and I talk it to my clients and just the hands on. And, you know, my approach with my Instagram page is really just I take from the businessman, Gary Vaynerchuk. He pretty much says, you don't need to worry about creating content, just document what it is you're doing and share it. And once you know you have something that you believe in, just keep finding different people to share that same thing with, and you're going to make a difference. And that just resonated with me. I said, you know, I'm busy. This is my lifestyle. And I'm continuing to, the more I learn, I like this idea of blending semantic knowledge with experiential knowledge. If I read it or hear it somewhere and it really piques my interest, I say, okay, cool. Now I need to apply it. And once I apply it and I reap the reward from it, now I have to share it because
Mhm.
now I've seen, I've felt, I've proven that it works. So I have to share that. That's really been my approach on that front, you know? So
Yeah.
every time I come across another practitioner like yourself that is living it, you found a way to find this information to provide yourself and your family with the well-being you were seeking, that the current system really falls short there. And
Mhm.
it really feels, without going too far down this path and being on the negative front, it feels like it was done intentionally
Mhm.
to continue. It was part of that, this disempowerment paradigm I often talk about, that they're making their money and wealth and power through taking the power from everybody else and not actually helping in the bigger picture, you
Yep.
know. But this quantum space really feels like that is the direction. So I guess where we'll go from there, the journey you're seeing, how many people are you able to impact by doing it remotely, and how busy is your average day in terms of the people you're working with?
I mean, it depends, I guess, on how much time I have right now. So I see a
Mhm.
lot of quantum practitioners offer courses and things that they can do where they're not present. And I maybe will do that one day. I'm not saying I won't, but I just feel like there's a spot for people to work in a one on one call. Like it's almost like a naturopath appointment
Mhm.
where you can talk about where you're at. I have a mentorship, so I teach the quantum information and then we talk about that person's specific scenario. So, what do they need for their light environment, right? Or their water or their magnetism, whatever we're learning about. So, it is limited by time that I have available, and
Sure.
I'm kind of busy. So, in just, I am busy, but I kind of said this to you earlier, is I try to also not get too busy. And
Yeah.
so by scheduling small amounts of time to work with patients and then scheduling the rest of my day as open, it allows me to feel, I guess, more creative in the end. I always think about that and how a creative individual, which I think we actually all are, but the more creative that you are, the more time you need not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important to keep that built in. And that actually brings me back to your thoughts about me back in practice one day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not completely opposed to it because I love one-on-one time with
Yeah.
people in person, right? But I don't want to be in Canada in the winter.
Fair.
I want to be, I don't know if you guys call them snowbirds. We call them snowbirds. When they
Sure.
leave, yeah, leave Canada and go somewhere nice. And so this year it fell through. I wanted it to happen, but I'm hoping next year I'll be able to be somewhere warm for like months on end. And so that's kind of tough when you're in a in-person practice.
For sure. But I love that though. That's setting out a goal and mapping your life around it. You know, that's so important. And so much of what you just said makes me realize this is so consistent within this quantum space too.
Hmm.
The practitioners are living it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you think about the traditional medical system that we know, allopathic medicine, forever. I mean, you go back to, doesn't, it's not all that far back that doctors would be smoking in their offices in hospitals. And still to this day, the number of doctors that, you know, God bless them, I think the quantum could be the answer for this, but they're still overweight. They're dealing with health issues themselves. And it starts right through medical school.
Yeah.
From the get-go, their rounds that they have to do, they're working around the clock, under artificial light, under all that stress. There's nothing health promoting about any of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just it's overwhelming to even just think about it because, you know, I tend to be solutions oriented, not problem oriented, but we
Yeah.
do have to highlight and discuss what the problems are to be able to then discuss what are the solutions going to be.
I,
And, you know, as you alluded to already, just having these conversations, getting this information out there, that's where the starting point is. Be able to let people know that there is an alternative, and the alternative is really the way. You know, I will say this: the way I think about the quantum and really what it means to me, and I'll throw to you and ask you your take in a moment as well. But in a simple way of looking at it, it's just getting back in touch with nature and
mhm.
disconnecting from all these, you know, technological advancements that have made life so convenient and easy for so many people. It's also made us very sick that we aren't exposed to the elements as much anymore because we don't need to be if we don't want to be. So that's kind of my take on it. But I'm curious to you, what is both the educated side? What did you learn it is? What's the definition of it? And what does it mean to you? Did I lose you?
Yeah, it's cutting out. I apologize,
No,
but
that's
I'll
all
get
right.
you to repeat your question because it cut
Yep.
out.
Of course, sorry about that. Yeah, so I guess it would be from more the educated side, like going through and becoming a quantum practitioner, what the definition of quantum is, quantum biology, but also to you, like what does it feel like? You know, for me, again, the explanation I gave is through it's getting back in touch with nature. You know,
Mhm.
letting nature heal us at a biological level. That to me is what this quantum biology movement is.
Yeah. Okay. So I apologize because it's cutting out. So if I get it wrong, I apologize. But
That's okay.
what is quantum biology in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with that because whenever I meet someone and they're like, "Whoa, what do you do?" and I have to say like it's quantum biology and try to explain it in, I've done a networking thing where you get like 3 minutes or something. I'm like, how do I do this in 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Um, but I always end up saying like the big secret in the end is nature. It's just
Hmm.
nature. It's just getting in touch with nature again and using it sometimes in ways where we're like amplifying what nature does or what our body wants, or because we live in an unnatural environment, what can I do different? But the best scenario is to just actually use nature.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love, I think probably many of us who are big on the idea of quantum biology is we love the science of why nature actually works.
Yes.
It's like the ancients knew it, but we didn't, we need, for some reason, it helps now when we know the science of it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's the more we get removed from it in our societal norms, the more obvious it is how
Mhm.
harmful that is to us. We're seeing, my understanding right now is in the States at least, our current healthcare cost is 5 times that of our military industrial complex budget.
Wow.
And we are sicker than we've ever been before. So clearly, this allopathic model of, you come in, you let me know what your ailments are, and I run a couple of tests, and we can take these symptoms and we can name it this thing and blame that, and then it's pills, injection, surgery.
Yeah.
Those things aren't the answer, and those aren't healing. Those aren't, cures. We really, the cure is healing at that cellular level. And I think this will be a wonderful transition into kind of a normal protocol, I guess, if you will, of maybe an intake form type of thing. What your approach is. How are you, without overwhelming your patients as you work with them, where do we start? What's the baseline, and kind of walk us through a normal approach?
That's a good point because it is overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah.
The amount that I've had to learn. Okay, so it started in the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology, which is great. They go through it because initially, I don't know about you, but I was like all over the place. As soon as you see quantum biology, Jack Cruz especially, you're like,
Yep.
whoa, it's a lot of information, right? And so the Institute puts it into a nice little like streamlined way to learn it. But there's just so much more. I've come
Hmm.
to realize that you almost need to know everything about biology if you want to understand quantum biology on the full scale. Every single disorder, every single illness, every single everything has a quantum side to it to talk about and to learn about. So it's a lot. And that's where I think it's helpful to work with a practitioner or mentor or somebody, because if they have the time and space to do that, then they can help you with your specific need. And so for me, what I have found is that I do hair analysis. So that's kind of a common entry point for people with me. They want to
Had
yeah,
to.
submit yours. This man is made out of air.
Some eyebrows.
Yeah, you can use body hair, but the hair analysis is a useful tool to really kind of see where you're at within the last 3 months. And
Hmm.
especially if you start implementing quantum strategies, you can see heavy metals being detoxed quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then balancing of like thyroid and adrenal and blood sugar, all of that. So it's really nice to see that. But a lot of people will start with that because I think they're not ready to commit to full quantum yet. So that's a lot of what I do is hair analysis. And then I also, more commonly than just like an appointment, like, so I initially thought I would work more like a naturopath, or someone comes see me once and then they come back when they want to, or another couple of visits and they keep. I found it's more useful and more people want this is a mentorship where we do 6 quantum lessons
Hmm.
and a talk about their health concern at the same time, and usually their hair analysis, so that I can teach the different topics in enough that they get to understand it and can use it, but not too much. Like if you're looking at it all on your own, where you end up with like everything that's really hard to pull together.
Yeah.
So, light, water, magnetism, food, those are some of the big ones that I will teach about. And it's a full hour of like slides and kind of back and forth conversation. And then the rest of the time talking about how they're going to implement that, what they want to do, what resonates with them, which I think is actually the most important, is what resonates.
Yeah.
So that is the most common way. Those 2 ways, the hair analysis and then the mentorship, are the most common for me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. There's so much information. This is true of so many different things that we seek to change in our lives. Is we really have to look at it from a behavior modification standpoint, and
Mhm.
even subconscious programming. I listened to and read a lot of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, and that subconscious programming really, to me, is the crux of so many issues that we run into, because we've got all this negative self-talk, and we've got these ways that, it's wild, the dynamic that from our conscious mind being present right here right now, to then get into the subconscious and be in that, you know, default mode, I'll call it.
Yep.
It all it takes is being stressed out,
Yep.
and we're stressed frequently in our society, So I think it goes back to that those of us that are in this space and taking care of ourselves, we try to slow things down a little bit to keep things a little calmer and stay in control a little bit more. But I think that's a good lens to look at it through, of helping people, yes, understand the information intellectually initially, but
Mhm.
understanding it on this surface level semantically. They're hearing it from you, they might be reading a little bit from you, but that's so different from what they're used to, that to really get them to absorb it and change, it's about only 1 to 3 things at a time that we change, so we can habituate these things and we can take that conscious control back and say, wait a minute, my subconscious programmings that I'm running right now are things that I had no say in being installed in my brain, if you will. And it's
Mhm.
time for me to recognize that and play an active role and say, okay, I'm going to override the system. I'm going to put in new programs that
Yeah.
then I've habituated it to such a point, I don't even think about it. I'm up early before the alarm because I've, gotten synced to the circadian rhythm, and I feel rested. And now I'm making better decisions with what I'm eating. I'm making better reactions or responses to conversations I'm having with people. And that becomes so,
Mhm.
so powerful. So, I guess ultimately I'm just thinking out loud here, and maybe that's a way that could serve you even more to help your patients that much more, to get them to really take that ownership and take charge of it, because I do love that idea of doing the mentorship. That's such a wonderful idea.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Bruce Lipton, because I read his book, The Biology of Belief,
Yeah.
forever ago. I think I was in biology and I thought, wow, this is really different. I loved it. It's like it really started the kickoff. You know what I've read just this week actually was Mark Gober. Have you read his The
No,
End to Upside Down Medicine?
no, I'm in though.
You're gonna like it. He's got a 7 books series. You probably like all of them.
Okay.
But I like this one, The End to Upside Down Medicine, really brings up a lot of what we've been talking about here. And he's really good at laying it out. And he has a whole chapter on consciousness and how it plays a role in our medicine and healing. And that is the part that quantum biology is just, I've always loved quantum physics and I've loved biology. And I remember constantly thinking, how come these two don't come together? Like,
Hmm.
we act in biology like it just stops at the cellular level, at the hormones and the cell wall. But then I was like, I just don't understand, because I thought aren't they made out of protons, electrons, and neutrons?
That's right.
So quantum biology, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, they are. And this is how it works.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is that at the end, it is all just an energetic field. And
Yeah.
so every single mentorship I do ends in a part. Right now it's called vortexes, but I might change that, because it ends in the part of like how your energetic field affects everything we just talked about. That was science essentially.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, that really brings in placebo and nocebo.
Yep.
I mean, I've shared this with several different people that I've had on here, so I'll apologize in advance to the audience. You've heard it already, I get it, but I'll share it with you, Dr. Erica, that back in June of last year, I was diagnosed with a tumor on my left kidney.
Oh, shoot.
And I've been through so much of the work in this space of self-healing, self-reflection, of learning of the number of people who have, experienced spontaneous remissions from really severe cases of whatever the diagnosis may have been. And I found myself saying for quite some time there, and I would always preface it too, I'm like, maybe I should be careful what I'm saying here, but if
Mm.
ever I'm diagnosed, I know what I'm going to do. And
Wow.
I feel like the universe said, okay, Jeffrey, here's your gift. Here's, you called this, you pulled it to you, here
Yeah.
it is. So when I received the diagnosis, I felt this palpable rush of energy from my feet through my body, and it was pure peace and calm. I had no fear whatsoever. I knew in the moment of diagnosis that my body would be okay with this. We would be able to resolve this. We're not going any standard of care treatment, and we're going to be all right. And it truly felt to me in that moment that this is your opportunity. This is your gift to show people what the body's capable of, because
Mm-hmm.
you know it and you have an understanding of it, but you're not a doctor. So
Mm-hmm.
without being a doctor in our society, what level of credibility do you have to talk about these things? And I had that inner sense of that I knew that I believed that I can't be pretending to tell people how to handle their diagnosis or their loved one's diagnosis, because I'm not trained in that. But I also knew in my heart, I knew in my aura that there's something else I'm supposed to be doing, and this was my gift. So I'm down that path, and I know I will. It's just a matter of time before I get my clear scan and I can share that story in detail with people of here's what I did. But I mean, simply put, what I'm doing is it's belief, it's applying all this quantum biology approach to things. It's getting in touch with nature, sink into the circadian rhythm, grounding every day, working that much better. I'm becoming a better version of myself every single day so that my relationships with people are improving, and the universe just conspires for us. God conspires to make our path work for us and give us these opportunities. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it's a wild journey. We each have our own thing, and I really want people to. I keep saying my challenge is I want people to hear that message, and it'll be that much more powerful when I say, "Hey, here's my clear scan," but
Mm.
make these changes now before you end up with some sort of a diagnosis that tests whether or not you can remain calm in the face of that, or fear takes over. It's just this vibrational frequency. Can we stay up in that higher vibration? That's where we're going to heal. That's where we stay. That the mind is so powerful. The placebo effect is happening in that higher frequency. The nocebo effect is happening down in that lower frequency. And we share this information, we can raise people up.
Yeah, I really appreciate preventative medicine.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty much I have responded, especially when, like I told you, how I felt I didn't feel well after having the kids. So I have been reactive, let's say. But in general, I've always been interested in prevention. And
Yeah.
it's such a hard sell. Like nobody, not nobody, but it's hard. People don't want to do the things when nothing's wrong. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, turn off your Wi-Fi at night. It could hurt you. It will hurt you. It might hurt you. But they're like, but it's so easy to have it on, right? And so preventing takes steps before there's even a problem.
Yeah, it goes back to the programming, I think. Whether it was done intentionally or not, we are programmed in our society to just keep doing it. Hey, go live your life. Go do what you want to do. Don't worry. If there's a problem, you come see me, the doctor, and we'll take care of you. But again, that's clearly not happening. So why not just learn how to do these things in that way? And I do get it, human nature. And I think back to a former life, I'll call it, of my own, going through and making those decisions myself and having to make the mistake to then learn from it, and making the mistake over and over and over and over in some cases. So that's part of it too. I often think about the the diagnosis is a direct result, in my opinion, of my previous life. The decisions I made back then, the
Yep.
internal self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, the internal emotions and sensitivities that would come out as anger and manifest internally as anger. That it just makes sense that that is an environment that will allow tumors to grow and really take off. But when we have that love and that understanding and there's just no fear, things like that can't exist in that environment. So that's what this process is all about. So I this is going to be kind of a hard segue, I guess, but it's still within all of this conversation in this space. Your post from the other day about the quantum used for menopause. Let's dig in. Let's go. I guess what initiated that with you? How many? I imagine there's a handful of people you've worked with now who you've been able to help with that. But I'll kind of just throw to you, blank slate. Where are we going with that one?
Um, okay, so to be honest, I am trying to reach out to specific needs so that people can understand how quantum can help them with their specific needs. Because it
Awesome.
can be so general
Yeah.
that part of my posting is going to be, and you might see it from other posts, focused on a specific health concern so that they can say, oh, that's what I'm struggling with, right?
Yeah.
And hormonal stuff is a big part of quantum.
Yeah.
I personally have had my own healing when it comes to that, just from like a dysregulated hormonal system to something that feels like much more regulated. And I'm 41, I'll be 42 soon. So I'm heading in through that perimenopause thing. And so for me, it's about preventing that from being too awful, but
Yeah.
finding ways to still work with it. And then those that I have worked with and that are learning about menopause itself as well, is it can be really challenging, or it can be a lot less challenging. And yes, I think so. I think that, and I find that working with quantum strategies can really make it a lot more manageable. I think probably it was like that 100 years ago. I don't think, they didn't need to do any sort of like strategies like we're doing now with menopause, but we live in an unnatural environment again. So sometimes there is a place and a time for, replacement therapy or something like that.
Sure.
But it could be much reduced, and you can, like, with all of these things, all of the specific needs, you need to start with the foundation, and then you can top it up with whatever you want. So
Yeah.
hormonal changes, yes, we're going to start by balancing you as a whole, and then we'll speak a little bit more about where you're at in life and what that means for your strategies.
Absolutely. No, that's great. And so I guess to give the listeners some sort of actionable things, is there maybe a 5 bullet point list of areas that you would recommend? Let's start here. As I alluded to before, for myself personally, I was really getting in sync with that circadian rhythm. I don't miss a sunrise. Every opportunity in between appointments in the clinic, I go outside, hat got in the clinic. I have a hat. I have my blue light blocking glasses, long sleeves. I'm covered up inside to prevent the exposure to the artificial lights. But every chance I have, I go outside. I stand my bare feet on the ground. Even with the snow right now, I'm still out there barefoot in the snow. I'm a little crazy, but
Nope.
hat comes off, jacket, the glasses come off, the whole deal. And that plays a role in improving my sleep. My sleep improves so many other things. So that's, for me personally, that's been kind of my journey. But somewhere between a 3 to 5 bullet point list of some things that you can have people put into action.
Yeah. I actually have a list of 6 on me, so
Brilliant.
I might say them all. But it's just the same. Like, I always sound like a broken record, just like you're saying. You
Yeah.
gotta go out for sunrise. Like, you
Yep.
have to go out for sunrise. And I know, and we all kind of know, that quantum stuff it's exponential. You don't have to do it 100%.
Hmm.
Some people do. Some people are very strict with that. That's great. The place that I've been, so I always like to talk about how my 4-year-old would come sleep with me in the night commonly. Summers at 5:30. I'm not going to wake up at 5:30 because it might wake him up. And I
Yep.
don't want my 4-year-old up at 5:30 if he'll sleep till 7.
Yep.
So in the summer last year, I would just stay in bed and stay asleep until closer to when he wakes up, and then I would go outside and see the sunshine. And
Yep.
that wasn't every day. Many days I still did get up for that sunrise, but some days I'm not going to. And so I think that people need to know that there's the nuance that, as much as you can, using the morning light, but at the very least, as soon as you get up, go outside to light. Don't you look at your phone, don't turn on the lights, whatever you got to do. Now, a lot of people ask about this time of year when it's actually dark, and that's where you wear your blue blockers before
Yep.
the sunlight. So sunrise and morning light is definitely extremely important for hormonal regulation.
Hmm.
So it's ideal. And I think we talked about this before, but that circadian app is brilliant. So you
Yeah.
can use it to notify when you need to go outside for sunrise and then UVA rise, and getting those both on your in your day.
Yep.
And then blue blockers is the other really important. Actually, to be honest, another thing that made a huge difference for me that I sometimes forget to mention is stopping with sunglasses.
Yes.
I I was like that guy, that song that I wear my sunglasses.
Yes, yes.
I wore them all of the time. Even if it was a little dim, I was just wearing them. So as soon as I got rid of those, it was huge. Like I I don't know if anyone else has had this. I'd love to hear if anyone else has, but my eyes were like gross. Like I was like cleaning them a lot
Mm,
for like a month after stopping with sunglasses. So I don't know. I'd actually like to ask Valerie Giagrande, the
yeah.
ophthalmologist, what she thinks about that, because I wonder if you could have accumulation of like toxins or something going on in your eyes that comes out with sunlight.
Hmm.
But that combined with actually going out in the sun is a big step. And then using the blue blockers after the sun sets is again almost the same. Not, I
Yeah,
mean, there's a huge degree of difference, but almost the same as not seeing all that light at night that is damaging your hormonal cycle.
sure.
And then using pure darkness. So 2 lux or less. And again, you can use the app to see,
Hmm.
like, preferably less in your sleep environment. So you're producing the melatonin and your leptin and all your growth hormone and all the things that needs to happen in sleep. Um, what's the book? The Light Doctor? The Light
Oh,
Doctor.
yeah.
That's a good one to talk
Yep.
about the correlation of light and breast cancer. I mean,
That's right.
there's a lot of issues with light in the night. So we've got sunlight, blue blockers, darkness. And then I think just two more, but I wouldn't skip the importance of food timing and also
Hmm.
food quality, I guess, like what you're eating exactly.
Sure.
Um, when I learned about circadian and why you might eat circadian, it was like a light bulb. Like, of
Hmm.
course, your food is a light signal. Of course it is. It's a barcode, it's information. And so using your food in that way makes so much more sense than all of the different diets and all the different strategies out there. Yes, they can have their place and they can make you feel better. But in the end, if you're just eating as if there was no mass transportation, that's what that's how you would eat.
Yep.
And so those things will help balance your hormones as well. And to me, yeah, those can be really powerful, all of those.
I think that's fantastic. And it does, it shows the overlap. You're absolutely right. I love your idea of promoting it, I guess, in a way of if you're dealing with this, here's how quantum can help you. If you're dealing with this, here's how it can help you. The fact is, regardless of what it is, it's
Yeah.
going to help you,
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
so much overlap, but I do like that a lot because it gives a level of relatability, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Of somebody, the way we're programmed now with allopathic medicine is simply, well, if you don't have anything that's diagnosable, you don't have a problem. You're fine. You talk about this a lot too, how your tests are fine,
Yeah.
but you don't feel fine. Something feels off.
Yeah.
That's how flawed our current system is, that
Yeah.
something's off. You don't feel good, but all they have that they can provide you with is pills, injection, surgery. And they're only going to do it if you're so far off of the
Totally.
beaten path that, oh,
Yes.
your test shows, yes, you have this thing. I can diagnose it now. If I can't diagnose it, I can't treat it. So you must be fine.
Hmm.
Well, great. Let's not wait to be diagnosed. Let's not wait for a problem. Let's connect these dots and say, hey, it just makes sense to be in touch with nature, to be up with the sun, to as close to our ability. I love how you touched upon that too, that, with your son climbing into bed. And yeah, there's times that we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
As I told you before we hit record, I went over a friend's house last night. We got together for the Super Bowl, and although I ultimately don't care about that type of stuff anymore, it's vital to still be social and still be with people we care about. And I literally journaled about it in the morning of prepping myself for, okay, I'm going to be up later tonight than I normally would be. And I'm going to be around people that are eating and drinking. And I'm going to eat a little bit later than I normally would. But the benefit of the social component
Totally.
outweighs the downfall of, okay, tonight I ate a little bit later than I would, and I stayed up a little bit later than I would. I don't need to worry about being perfect. I have to balance that equation out. And
Yeah.
that's a huge piece of it too, because I think a lot of people, when I talk about it in the clinic with clients, they'll do the same thing. I mean, it's almost of by sharing the information, I've made the mistake of almost becoming a fear monger,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you cannot see the light after sunset. If you don't have your blue light blocking glasses on, it's going to kill you. No, no, no. I don't present it that way, but that's how it can feel received at times if somebody's really buying in. So it is really important that we share the information, we share the importance and the value of it without creating another layer of fear.
Yeah. My most recent patient, we were just doing the light presentation with her, and she was nervous. She was like, I don't know if I'm ready because I'm so afraid of what I'm going to learn and what I have to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was good though, because in the end, after we did the whole thing, we talked about what she's going to change. She was like, okay, I can do this. It's not actually that bad. It just,
Yeah.
it looks potentially like I have to change everything in my life, but there's ways to do it a lot less.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny too, when you talked earlier about having some of the concerns you had, and I guess I'll say issues you had after having your kids, and you started with the common things, right? It was go to the gym, clean up what you're eating.
Yep.
And it's funny because I've had Dr. Alexis Cowan on, and she shares in her ebook that I got, her health pyramid. And it's so funny how we see, having been in the fitness industry for so long, when people think, okay, it's time to get serious, I have to start taking care of myself and getting in shape, we do that. We start with exercise generally, we join a gym,
Yep.
and then we see, all right, it's really not working to the best of what I thought I could do, so now I need to change what I eat. But
Yeah.
it's funny because we're going in the inverse. That's the peak of the pyramid, is movement or exercise, is this tiny little triangle at the top. The next one down is nutrition. But then below that, the real foundation to start is, as we know, light, water, magnetism.
Mhm.
And then the next one up from that is sleep. So if we can she's really simplified it to just those 4 stages. But instead of thinking movement first, exercise first, and then try to eat right, it's let's heal our body. Let's connect with nature, do
Mhm.
the light, water, magnetism, focus on that first. Then we'll notice that we just instantly begin to sleep better
Yeah.
because, as you alluded to, the light environment, but on the other side of that equation is the darkness.
Yeah.
That darkness is so vital. The melatonin, the healing process that takes place when we sleep, if we're in darkness and if we didn't eat right before we went to bed and we're not busy digesting.
Yeah.
So just being able to get people to understand, flipping that around, that when you've improved plenty of things, great, now you can eat a little bit better and now you can exercise. But don't just start exercising if your system's dysfunctioned, you don't feel good, you don't have energy. You don't start it by just go run around.
No, it's so interesting. I need that pyramid. That's amazing. I'm gonna do her book. But I just noticed, so there's a new yoga studio opening next week, and I was like, I think I'm almost healthy enough now to exercise. Isn't that funny?
I love it.
It's almost been a year, and I started with that. I started going to the gym, and I was just like, this isn't the right thing. This isn't what you need to do. Actually, it's more than a year that I was working out. But once I learned quantum, I'm like, okay, skip that. When I feel really strong, then I can start exercising again.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think it's almost time.
Yeah. And I think as this quantum thing begins to grow, like I've played around with ideas in my mind of maybe a different Instagram page or how I just present myself. But I'm thinking of myself now in terms of being the quantum massage therapist, the quantum personal trainer. It's like,
Yeah.
that stuff is still vitally important. But if we don't understand it through the quantum lens, we are not maximizing the potential.
Exactly.
So, again, to the idea of not needing to try to be perfect, you don't necessarily need to wait until things are perfect to begin to quote unquote work out.
Yeah.
Just being outside, being active, going for a walk, giving
Right.
your body the
Yeah.
movement that
Yeah.
we can perceive that as working out.
Yeah.
And as we build and we have that much of a stronger foundation built upon, now we can really ramp it up and get training a little bit harder. So
Yeah.
It really is important to start with the simple stuff and start understanding, and maybe we can go a little deeper into some of the science here if you feel like it, but the the approach to healing at the cellular level and the mitochondrial level,
Mhm.
that for many people it's up and over. Mitochondria, they might recognize the name and they remember powerhouse of the cell, but boy, there's just so much more that it does for us, and that
Yeah.
we do for them in good and bad, right? I mean, if we aren't taking care of ourselves, our mitochondria function is just so dysregulated, and then our health is dysregulated. But as we start to take care of ourselves and we do the things, we give the body the stimulus necessary to heal at a mitochondrial level, now we start to feel so much better. So it's such a symbiotic relationship, but I think many people are disconnected from that. So
Yeah.
again, I'll throw to you and we'll see where you go with all that.
Usually when someone's like, "So what is it that we're actually working on?" It's like, "Okay, well, we're working on your hormones and your cells and your neurotransmitters." I'm like, "But like really we're actually working on your mitochondria."
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to improve your mitochondrial health. And then if they're prepared, I'll then go on and I'll say it. But really what I'm trying to work on is your redox, your electrons, your energetic charge. And then if they're even more prepared, I'll say, okay, but really what I'm working on is essentially mindset. It's essentially the energetic field. But the mitochondria is a really good place where biology just fits in, right? Like
Mhm.
it does use quantum physics, but the biology side where people are very comfortable and you really can see true effects is like, okay, let's focus on mitochondrial health. And that will obviously impact all of the different things that I've spoken about. So, yeah, it's a great way to start is to really focus on your mitochondria and like focusing on how using quantum biology will impact your output from them, which I mean, teach my second lesson is water, but it's hard
Mhm.
to not talk about right away how your mitochondria produce easy water or coherent water
Yep.
and how that is, I'm thinking, and as we're seeing, the most important thing that we have, right?
For
And
sure.
so, how do I help someone to improve their mitochondria so that their water is actually better throughout their whole system, allowing for better redox, a better flow of their energetic field, their electrons?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. There's so many different avenues we could go with that, but we know drinking water isn't directly related to how hydrated the body is, the cells are, the tissue is in this whole easy water, metabolic water. What we're eating impacts that so much based on its deuterium load, based on where do we live and how hot is it out. And that goes back to the seasonal eating, because we know produce is so much higher in deuterium than animal products. So I've come to look at the dietary side of it. Is the It's vitally important to eat local and seasonal, because as you said, your food is this barcode of light information, but there's just things in there that, if you're eating something that didn't grow in your region and it came across the world to get to you and you're putting it in your body, now your cells aren't functioning optimally. Now you're not being able to create the proper amount of easy water to hydrate your cells and hydrate the tissues, and really, I mean, the way the heart is involved with this, and you listen to Dr. Stephen Hussey's work, it's really remarkable, this ability for the water to be able to be this battery of energy, and so much of it, that's what it is, right? Like the redox, this reduction of oxidative stress, grounding plays a role with that as well. But
Yep.
eating seasonally, again, I keep going back to it, is that if I'm eating fruits and vegetables in the middle of the winter here in New York, and I'm not outside with enough heat to sweat out the deuterium, now I've got too much deuterium in my body for my body to be able to create the easy water, right? And then if I'm eating food that was grown in our conventional agriculture method with these GMO seeds, and they made GMO so that they could continue to spray their glyphosate and Roundup on it. Well, now we know through the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack in his lab, they're showing directly that the Roundup is literally preventing the body's ability to make the easy water. You know, it is just, it's wild stuff. The more we talk about it, and every time I have a conversation with somebody else and I come across a little bit more, it's another dot connected of this is why it's so important and healthy to go the quantum route, and why it is so deleterious to our body to continue down this path we're going down. And the reason pills, injection, surgery is not the answer,
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. And interestingly too, like keeping again that balance is that a lot of the blue zones, I think one of the things that really underlies all of those is sunlight, movement,
Mm-hmm.
and good relationships. And
Yeah.
so I feel if you still have those things, you might be okay. You might live a long time. Like some people are really aging well and they do a lot of stuff wrong, but you do still have to make sure you have probably those things, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then the world that we live in, like I live amongst orchards. It's we're trying to sell our house. But they're spraying glyphosate on the ground like throughout the season, and it's painful to see that I'm right next door to that, right? Like
Yeah,
the environment that you live in now requires more tweaking to stay well and maybe even recover from things.
for sure.
But having that foundation of some of the most important things can work.
Absolutely. You know, it makes me think too, we do understand there's ways we're starting to grasp of detoxing from things
Yes.
like glyphosate and
Yeah.
such. It is not easy, especially because as we know, it's now ubiquitous. It's in the air we breathe, it's in the water we drink, it's everywhere. So we do have to start to, you know, understand that it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we want to be mindful of not putting in more. You know, it makes me think of Dr. Robert Lustig's real simplification of things, that we either have too much of something we don't need or not enough of something we do need.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's a simple equation to balance out, you know, and in that case, we've got a lot of toxins that we need to eliminate. And
Hmm.
there's so many things, again, beat a dead horse, but back to quantum, get in touch with nature. That's what we're lacking. That's what we're really deficient in.
Yeah.
And we start to do more and more of that. But this idea that we are still battling against a system that is still using glyphosate like there's not a problem. It
Hmm.
just, it blows my mind. And you know, as I've alluded to a couple of times already, I want to be solutions oriented. I don't know the solution of continuing to battle against that challenge, I guess I'll call it. But
I know.
in the meantime, we continue to share the awareness, share the information, and make the best decisions that we can. You know,
Yeah.
that's one big part of it, right?
I did my hair analysis this summer and I eliminated a lot of aluminum, iron, and manganese. It's
Okay.
not and that they call the three amigos, but I had started the quantum strategies and it was really cool to see that just by doing them you start to eliminate a lot of this stuff, and you do need to keep doing it because like you said it just keeps coming back in, especially
Yeah.
aluminum.
Yeah.
But if you keep eliminating it you will feel a lot better.
For sure. Yeah, and it's really powerful. I love that that's your approach, and it's really helpful for people to see. Now, how often do you recommend doing the hair analysis? And if somebody's watching this, I mean, by the end of this, I'm certainly going to be we'll tell people how to find you, how to work with you. But are those is the analysis something people can have done on their own?
um what was the first question?
That's a good question. I threw a lot at you there, didn't I? Sorry. Oh, how often do you recommend they do it?
Right. So ideally every 3 to 4 months because it tracks about 3 months of growth. So you can see what's
Gotcha.
gone on for the last 3 months. So that's what I do with my annual clients or my own self is and my family. Every 3 to 4 months, we'll test it, kind of see what's changed. And then you can do it like from anywhere. So I've got people all over that I just send them the kit and then a little video of how to take your hair sample, and then they can send it in to ARL, which is in Arizona.
Okay.
And then I get the report back and we do a call. And the way that I do it is a little different than others. So it may not be for everyone, but it's probably, if you're more interested in quantum biology, it's probably more of the type that you would want, because I don't just take the report from the lab and like tell you what it says, which is a
Hmm.
lot of the analysis will do. That's fine. But I like to pull information from every direction I can find. And so I've done as much training as I can on my own for how to interpret hair analysis, and then how to use quantum to fix the problem. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times the solution to a hair analysis is supplements. And I do like some of the supplements that are recommended, um, depending, right? So like
Hmm.
not everyone takes them, not everyone takes all of them. I could do it without supplements if someone's willing to do the work. And if they're not and they want to just do supplements, we can do that. But overall, that's not the be all end all. It's like it's part of the strategy, but bigger part of the strategy is, again, this whole quantum knowledge will improve your body and your ability to eliminate, and your thyroid and your adrenals and your blood sugar, and all of that will improve with everything that we are talking about here, as opposed to just taking supplements.
Yes. Yes. That. I'm glad you went there. That's funny. When I first came across functional medicine quite a while back now, I felt like, oh, this is the answer. This is, let's get away from allopathic medicine. Let's get away from just pharmaceuticals. And, oh, you have a lifestyle that led you down this path of disease and symptoms, and we'll just throw a pill at it.
Yeah.
It just didn't resonate with me. I grew up in a household that we had a medicine cabinet in the house. And sadly, my folks were not exactly healthy, and they both passed away far too young. And it's kind of brutal, but I think that was part of my path, is I needed to observe that and see and learn my lesson through that. And that's helped cultivate who I am. So I kind of felt this transition from allopathic into functional medicine, like, oh, this feels right. Look for the root cause. That made sense to me. But over time, I started to get a sense that functional medicine just replaced pharmaceuticals with supplements.
Yeah.
And not everybody, and there is still a lot of, seeking the root cause, I think, is a vital piece of this still. But I find the distinction between quantum and functional medicine is really about supplying the body with its building blocks that it needs through nature,
Hmm.
like literally through the sun
Yeah.
and through the right foods and giving the body the right information. We should not need to supplement things, which
I,
supplementing, even when we do need it, it is just supplemental. It
right.
isn't the thing,
Yeah.
so I do think it's a vital piece of this, though, that there's that distinction, and you kind of give people an option of, yeah, listen, if you want to take the supplements, we can do it. But ideally, we go down this path and you learn that much more. And how can I do this that I don't even need the supplements? That's where we really reach that optimization.
Yeah, I would agree. And sometimes some supplements will be like salt, right? Like
Hmm.
that's a supplement in a sense. Or
Yeah.
using, I like using iodine.
Yep.
So some of these things we do need because we're not eating the right diet, we're not getting enough grounding, so you might always supplement a little bit, but
Sure.
overall, the little like pills, that come in a bottle, that kind of thing, is trying to minimize that. That's what
Yeah.
my goal is anyhow. And it never used to be like, this is a huge change for me too. I was really big into vitamins. Like
Yep.
it was like, that was my light bulb. I'm like, of course it makes sense. You have to take vitamins and that's what will heal. But even when you think of something like your thyroid, which comes up a lot in hair analysis, you can see your thyroid's underactive, but in blood work, it looks like it's fine.
Hmm.
We're getting to it pre bad enough to show up on blood work, which is great. It gives you lots of time to change it and make it better. But, someone will think, oh, I don't have enough thyroid hormone. And so they think they need to supplement with something that helps improve their thyroid hormone, or take prescription. It's like, but why? Why is that not enough? Right? Like, why is your estrogen too low? Like, yeah, they'd be like, my estrogen's too low. But why is your estrogen too low? We need to understand
Yep.
that.
That's right.
That's where quantum finally answers those questions.
It sure does. Yeah, and the next path I see myself going down is, there's a lot of these biohacking types of things that we're discovering that, even through the lens of quantum, they make a lot of sense, but it's a lot of these devices are so expensive and
No.
we don't really need them. I mean, depending on where somebody lives, okay, maybe there's a case to be made that this is really a necessity, at least for a while, at least for while you're living there. But the more we can leverage what's free in nature, and ultimately it goes back to I'm kind of a I, I can repeat things a lot. I catch myself doing that, but I like to say, get comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Little cliche, but it really is, it makes a lot of sense. It's if you can discover the things that are the proper stimulus for your body for that hormetic response, you get yourself slightly uncomfortable for a while until you build a resilience to it. And as you get more resilient to it, you're capable of so much more. And
Hmm.
it really is about disconnecting from so many of these, the comfort things that we experience in our culture, right? Just get away from seeking this 68 to 72 degrees year round. And when it's 15 degrees outside, go stand outside for a few minutes. Just
Hmm.
expose yourself to it for a little bit. And once it gets too much, all right, come back in for a little bit. But the more you do that, the more resilient you get. When it's 100 degrees out,
Yeah.
go outside and sweat for a little bit.
Yeah.
The body is supposed to do that. It's when we're exposed to those things for longer periods of time, we adapt, we become so resilient. But the more we fear and avoid those things, the weaker we get. And
Yeah. What's interesting too is that um, right now I feel people are more open to being uncomfortable when it comes to like, I'm going to go run a half marathon or something of that sort that's like really hard. But they're
yeah,
like, well, you got to do it, right? When you're saying, like, I go and eat my breakfast outside and I'm usually shoveling snow off my chair to that I'm going to then sit on and eat breakfast.
yep,
And like, that's uncomfortable too, but it's not nearly as hard, if you ask me, as learning to run. Like,
yeah.
so we're gonna ask you to do something, but now the discomfort is just a different way. You have to like be open to a whole new way.
That's a great point. And you know what I really think a large part of that is for so long now, people have heard the success stories of people who have committed to a training program and they've lost weight and they got stronger. And there's some wonderful things that certainly come from that.
Sure.
But the more these conversations get out there, we're normalizing the benefits that you get from just getting in
Yeah.
sync with nature, from just understanding this quantum concept
Yeah.
and reprogramming,
Yeah.
in the best sense of it. It's like we have to learn to rethink. We have to recognize that the information we've been provided for the majority of our life has been incomplete at best,
Yeah.
and the more we can replace what we thought we knew and be open minded and curious enough to recognize that, well, wait a minute, I thought I knew it and I walked around telling people I knew it, but I applied it and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So did I really know it? Or was I the anomaly? It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I think back through the fitness industry, starting my career, I experienced that a great deal. That, following the food guide pyramid, for example. You're like, well, I'm doing what I'm told to do. This is what we teach people to do. I'm getting in my 60% carbohydrates. I'm getting my grains. I'm doing all these things right. And I'm like, how am I still holding on to an extra 15, 20 pounds of fat? And I'm training really hard. And
Yeah.
just over time, you start to challenge yourself. You're like, well, maybe there's something to dropping those carbs down, kicking your protein up, kicking your fat up, and
Yeah.
see what your body goes through in that journey. And that was a hard transition for me because it was just all those changes went against what I had studied and learned and thought I knew. But then over the years, I watched my body change and it became easier and easier and easier to attain the physique I wanted and sustain it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so we had bad information for a long time. However, we got it, we don't know, but we now know it. Let's make those changes. And
Hmm.
I think we can do that. I think we are doing that by
Yeah.
sharing this type of information as well.
Yeah. It's definitely like I don't really care about weight. So one thing I did was intuitive eating. Have you heard
Yeah.
of it?
Yep.
I read the book and I was like, okay, this is going to heal my relationship with food because I had a history of like all the different diets and all disordered sort of thinking, I guess, about food. And once I had a daughter, she's 7 now, but when she was born, I was like, I can't give this to her. So I have to
Mm,
relearn this, right? And so that's when I did intuitive eating. So I try to keep those principles in mind when it comes to food on the circadian side and the quantum side. But so that leads me to say I don't actually care about people's weight,
Yeah.
but I do care about how they feel and how they function and perform. And all that being said, like, again, the number doesn't matter, but I've lost like 20 pounds maybe, like, since I started Quantum to now. And like I said, I'm not exercising,
Yeah.
and I'm not, it's not that hard. It's just like it makes it, your body is like, oh, I finally feel nourished. Oh, I finally am getting what I need. And now, if you want to take it to the next level, like it sounds like what you're able to do is like take it to the next level and get a little bit more intense with it. And then you're going to have amazing results. And it's not,
Right.
again, that hard.
That's right. Yeah. And it sounds like your, I'll say why, similar to myself, is helping not only yourself, but your family, your children. You
Mm-hmm.
know, my deep down why is I have a really strange intuitive sense that I'm going to live to at least 120.
Wow.
And if that's going to be the case, then I'm going to take
Yes.
charge and make sure that when I'm there, I'm still capable of living the life that I want to live.
Cool.
So it's really important that I have the energy to play with my kids. And
Yeah.
in the future, I see myself as a grandfather, having the energy to play with my grandkids. And beyond that, being old enough that I'm here and I have a relationship with my great grandkids and I'm playing with them as well. So that's my driving force. And that's why it's so simple for me. It doesn't feel like, a sacrifice to
Yeah.
not stay out late and not eat that thing and indulge in that thing. I said, no, no, no. That right now is going to pull me further from my
Yes.
long-term goal of what my why is. So it's really simple to be able to do that. And you're right too, when you can make these changes just to say, hey, it just makes sense. Living this lifestyle, this quantum lifestyle, and getting away from this other thing that we've been doing for a while is just going to help me feel better.
Hmm.
We do it just to feel better. We do it just to kind of get to that point that we understand intellectually we're healing our body at a cellular level, at a level that we can't quite see,
Yeah.
but we know it's going to serve us.
Yeah.
And we aren't doing it just because, well, I want to lose 20 pounds by that event coming up in 6 weeks. So let's go and I'll do anything you tell me to do. Let's break that paradigm. You
Yeah.
know,
Like,
let's start here. Let's get healthy. Let's optimize your cells, your mitochondria. And guess what? They're going to gift you with that body you wanted when you were younger. And then you decided to tell yourself, oh, I don't care anymore anyway. Well,
hmm.
deep down, I think you do, and you want to feel better. Maybe it's about feeling better now than looking a certain way for many of us, But it's amazing how when you feel better, you also start to look better. And
Yeah.
it
It's true.
isn't about, yeah, it isn't just about the aesthetics to it.
Yeah.
That's what a healthy, optimized body does,
Right. Yeah.
and that's the important part. And I'm very sensitive to the idea of body imaging and how people feel about themselves, but to really make a difference, we have to be able to have an open, honest, transparent conversation. And size matters in the sense that if we are storing so much excess adipose tissue, that's throwing off our hormones. That's impacting our leptin and ghrelin, and it starts to kind of take over and manipulate our metabolism and our hunger and all of that. So if we can just say, okay, I just want to feel better.
Yeah.
And then again, sharing this information, we get people to start to understand how the process improves the more we do those things. It really is a powerful journey.
Yeah. And also a suntan looks amazing on people, right?
Yes.
Like, now
Yep.
it's okay. I remember in high school it was like you wanted to go tanning, and then it was all of a sudden not okay, and now it's like, oh, it's really beneficial.
Great point. Absolutely. Getting people to understand that, yeah, the pigmentation of your skin, having that melanin is really important,
Yeah.
and it's going to help optimize your health and wellness.
Yep.
Yes, you can overdo it.
Yeah.
Yes, and doing it in a tanning bed isn't the optimal way. Again, it goes back to two, can we leverage nature and do it for free?
Yeah.
Right? Like I have this sense the blue light blocking glasses, the red light therapy. Now Dr. Thomas Seeger he's discovered the green light therapy for the migraines. That's remarkable. All those things are so important, but each of those things is necessary, and it's showing this ability to improve people's situations simply because they're that far removed from nature.
Yeah.
You get back into nature, you don't have this toxicity of blue light. You don't have this deficiency of green light. Get
Right.
out, do some forest bathing, and you get that
Yeah.
from the trees. Do some grounding, and you get that. See the sun at sunrise, midday sun, sunset, UVA rise, all these different times so that we're getting the right amount of each spectrum so that we're healing the body and giving it that signal.
Yeah.
That's the answer,
Yeah.
you know? And it's exciting to think about from that perspective that yes, the data there supports that all these different modalities are beneficial, but we don't need to spend thousands of dollars for all these devices. You just need to get back outside.
I know.
That's exciting.
That being said, as soon as I learned about the Magnetico, I had to buy one.
I love it. Tell us more.
um, I just so the thing about magnetism is it's just so interesting because we don't really understand it. And when you try to understand it with like the quantum side and quantum physics and like Dan Winters, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think magnetism might be the connection to spirit, to the universe, to the field, right? And so not only does it optimize your mitochondrial functioning and produce more water and more ATP, but I think it's like a vortex. And so
Mm,
I just had to have one. I'm like, I need to have this. So
I
yeah,
love it.
expensive. But that was one thing that I'm like, it would benefit people to have these unless you're sleeping on the ground. And that's where camping can be really helpful,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
If you can do that, or I think, what is that, the name of that one podcaster? Rich Roll. As
Oh
far as
yeah.
I know, he sleeps in a tent, and I'm not sure if it's on the ground or what, but if you're open to that and leave your house at night and go sleep in your tent, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Mm, But most of us don't. And so it doesn't hurt to have a few strategies. If you have to pick what to buy, there are certain tools that can be really beneficial. That's where I think red light comes in too.
Yep.
Cold baths, they don't have to cost a lot, but yeah, those can come in, or a sauna. That if you get to pick one thing, then maybe talk to someone about what is your best one thing. But there are a few things, but you're right, like it's all technically free. It's all
That's
out
right.
there. Just determining where you stand amongst it all.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and I think it's important. It's just like what we're doing here, sharing this information, just to provide people with here's the benefit of this particular thing. Again, is it red light therapy? Is it sauna? Is it the cold plunge? Whatever it may be. Here's the benefit. And we know it is very beneficial. You can purchase it, and here are a couple of the top companies out there, a couple of the top products out there, but here's its free alternative.
Right. Yeah.
Just that type of an approach to get people to understand it. Because you're right too. I mean, there's some people, they are so a part of the societal norms and have found a way to really be successful at it from a financial standpoint
Yeah.
that they say, hey, I can afford it. I want it.
Right.
All right. Yeah, cool. You can, and good for you. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't provide the information for the people that even if they want it, they can't afford it. So awesome. Let's show you the free stuff. So
That's
there is a benefit to all that stuff though.
most of my, like all of my classes that I offer, my mentorship, I have
Mhm.
that list where it's like, this is the free version all the way to the most expensive version, because each person does vary in their ability to afford and also what they want to do. So they might
Yeah.
want to just get outside, whereas they might be able to still afford the tools, but they don't want them. They want to do the natural thing. Or somebody who doesn't have a whole lot, but they have the ability to buy one or two things. So they can pick from the list of like where they want to go with it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I like the idea too. It's based on what their personal situation is, both from what their ailments may be, where
Yeah,
their deficiencies are, what they need to work on. It's like, all right, that's the thing that you want to work on. And here's your list of
exactly. Yeah.
from free to most expensive. They will all help you, but here's something for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic transition that, I feel like I could talk to you all day and I want to continue to talk and stay connected for sure. But for anyone interested in working with you, where can they find you?
So my website is drericam.com, and that's my Instagram too. So at Dr. Erica M. One of those ways is the best way.
Fantastic. That's simple. And let's think. I mean, you covered a lot. You blessed us with a lot of information. Anything? Let's let's say you gave us the 5 to 6 things actually earlier with the quantum and the menopause thing.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody that's brand new to this, but they've heard a couple of discussions about it and they've listened through here, where would you tell them to get started? Even like, especially for the person they're intimidated right now. They want to just dip their toes in. Where can they start? What's 1 or 2 things that they can do to get started right now?
That's a good question. I'm biased to say my mentorship because I can like customize it for the newbie or the advanced.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I do really like the book, The Mitochondriac Manifesto.
Okay.
He's got a second version that just came out, so it's annoyingly expensive. I apologize to him, to Randy for saying that, but it's like
Hmm.
$100. But it's a really good book to teach a lot about quantum biology and get you like a little bit more than just started, but it's going to give you a lot of information about it. And then probably listening to podcasts is probably my next thing because it's going to cover all the different topics and all the different people that you've talked about, and those are probably like the best way to just get started.
I like it.
And then also just go outside more.
Amen. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect, right? Just
Yeah.
get started by doing something that you'll start to feel the benefit from, but on top of that, learn some more information. I
Yes.
love it. Those are all fantastic points, and thanks so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Truly my pleasure. And audience, you know the drill by now. You watched throughout. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff, and go follow Dr. Erica. And till next time, be well.